Hello, I'm Maria Hall Brown, and this is LA Currents. Well, the Urban Dictionary defines the word homeboy as the epitome of friend, someone who has your back. Well, what began as a door-to-door campaign to get youth employment has now become Homeboy Industries. It only took 30 plus years. I'm delighted to actually welcome the founder of Homeboy Industries, Father Greg Boyle. So nice to have you here.
Thank you, Maria.
Well, I think mostly we need to congratulate Homeboy Industries. Wonderful news. The 2020 Conrad Hilton Humanitarian Award has been bequeathed to Homeboy Industries. It's $2.5 million, unrestricted funds. Is that a game changer for Homeboy?
Yeah, well, first of all, we're quite humbled by it, and it validates our 32 years of existence, and heartening given all the international pool of nonprofits that they picked us. So yeah, anytime, it's originally usually $2 million, but because it was their 25th anniversary, the board said, well, let's add another $500,000.
Let's round it up a little bit.
So that was 2.5. So yeah, no, it's a game changer because it supports our programming, of course, in an unrestricted way, but allows us to think about transitional housing, permanent housing, moving beyond, and meeting the needs that present themselves.
Okay, let's walk backward in time a little bit for, perhaps people don't have a real clear understanding of what Homeboy is, and also just the fact that it's a great story. Over 3 decades ago, you actually were assigned to the poorest Catholic church in Los Angeles, and looking around, you saw a need for the youth in the area to have a reason to look forward to their future beyond the drama that you saw they were participating in. How did you put Homeboy together? And it wasn't Homeboy at the time, it was, Jobs for a Future. How did you see all that taking place? What were your energies and efforts, and how have things progressed in an elevator speech?
Yeah, well, so I arrived in '86, so the first 2 years it really had other issues like immigration principally, and people were being deported, and so that was an issue for our community. But in '88, I buried my first young person killed because of the sadness, and 2 weeks ago, I buried my 236th,
Oh, no.
Not all from that community, but gang members I know because I run a large program. So we started a school, then we started a jobs program, and we just kind of started to, and that was the decade of death, which was '88 to '98, when sometimes I was burying 8 kids in a 3-week period. It was horrific, and shootings morning, noon, and night. So it was a hard issue to just ignore and have mass on Sunday. So we kept responding to things, and we've backed our way into becoming now the largest gang intervention rehab reentry program on the planet.
A lot of it started with actual industry. You had the bakery and the tortillery that you were able to not just ask for jobs, you were able to offer jobs.
Yeah, we created jobs because we couldn't find enough felony-friendly people to hire gang members from the parish. And so after the unrest in '92, a movie producer saw an article about how our community didn't explode, and the reason I gave was because we had 60 strategically hired rival enemy gang members from the 8 gangs in the parish working, maintenance crew, landscaping crew, that kind of thing. So he bought this bakery that was abandoned across the street from the school, and that was our first enterprise. But they were born because we couldn't find people willing to hire tattooed felons.
I don't know if I've ever thought about this, but how did you convince everyone around that you were someone they should listen to? Because a Catholic priest coming into an area that, has a bit of social unrest, how did you warm your way into their hearts and allow them to hear what you were offering?
Well, I think we always disqualify ourselves. We think, I don't share that experience with them, so we're not going to be able to connect. But it really is, if you're the proud owner of a pulse, then you can connect to human beings, because it's mainly about listening. receiving people? Can you be reached and have your heart altered by people? Anybody can do that. So it doesn't matter. That's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter that I'm white and they're Latino or African American or a gang member. That's not part of my experience. But because you're receiving people, then they'll never forget that for as long as they live. You know, you're visiting them when they're locked up or in the hospital, and these are, you know, things that endure as memories that are where they're kind of warmed by something, and then you have confidence. You know, people trust that kind of affection and tenderness.
How did you name it?
Well, it's interesting to hear you at the beginning use that definition. I don't think I've ever heard that. I'm heartened by that definition because I've been in many call-in shows in other parts of the country where they're kind of horrified that we named the thing Homeboy Industries. But that's it. It's kind of a sense of, you know, this is my best friend. This is somebody upon whom I can rely. And so the idea is to take rival gang members and move them to a place from us and them to just a place of us, that we're all homies and connected and in kinship. So I sort of like that definition.
Well, it's your sources. You got to go to specific sources. That was literally the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
Although I will have to say that Merriam-Webster does put it almost in similar terms. You know,
Okay,
just,
not pejoratively.
no, not it. There was nothing negative. I didn't see anything.
And it's a California thing, because I'm always kind of astounded that this twice happened in the state of Illinois, where call-in people were incensed that I would dare to. They thought it was very pejorative, and yet gang members are used to saying, "Oh, you know, my math teacher, Mr. Lopez, that's the homie right there." It's a way of saying we connect with each other. That's my friend. Yeah.
It's not always been easy. I mean, you are taking on a heavy lift and have from the very beginning. You look at it now and the international accolades and these awards and the support and the just visual and awareness of the organization. But it was kind of tough back in 2010. Things kind of got a little rough. Where are some of these peaks and valleys, and have you always known that you would be able to make it through and that things would, in fact, continue?
No, I don't think you're ever wedded to success, because then, again, as Mother Teresa says, we're not called to be successful, we're called to be faithful. So once you land on the thing that, the strategy, the methodology that is right and true and good and just, you stay there. You embrace that. You know, success or outcomes is really not my concern, as long as you're doing what you ought to be doing. So the first 10 years of Homeboy was death threats, bomb threats, hate mail, because people had so demonized gang members, it was a short hop to demonize somebody who was helping them. And then, as you mentioned, in 2010 was when, really 2 years after the economy, the recession, and I had to lay off 300 people. So, you know, clearly we've bounced back 10 years later. So, but it was good. It was a kind of a reordering out of a disorder, and we got to a place where we, you know, thought differently. How are we going to proceed? And it was a blessing.
Well, you have proceeded and you have expanded. So you went from just, you know, a couple social enterprises to, let's see, there's, as I mentioned, you have a global audience. You know, you actually bring people in from around the world, and you are, you know, emulated. You have education efforts, reentry programs, family housing and sports, and you even, I was excited to see, you were even supporting the arts. How do you decide how these initiatives should be rolled out and where they take their place in your priorities?
Yeah, I wish I could say there was a plan or a vision, but there was never that. So the businesses, we have 9 of those now, you know, electronic recycling and silkscreen and a diner at the city hall, a restaurant at the airport. So these kinds of things have blossomed, as well as trying to deal with the fundamental essential healing of every gang member who comes to us. So therapy, tattoo removal, classes, recovery, 12-step program. So all those things, the arts, as you mentioned. So we, respond to kind of what's right in front of us. So there's never kind of a plan. I wish there were. But we've always just sort of backed into things as we go, maybe we should do tattoo removal. When things present, we respond. And so that may not be any way to run an airline, but that's kind of how we operate. And so, and it's worked for us because new things present, new challenges. How, like homelessness right now is an issue among our population. And that never was before. Even when you got out of prison, you always had a place to live. And now couch surfing or sleeping on a bench or in your car. And we don't want that. So that's a kind of thing that was new now that wasn't true 10 years ago.
I'm going to pull two things out of what you just said. Tattoo removal. Tattoo is a choice, an artistic choice for many people. Why was that something that you felt or your organization felt was important? And where's the line between self-expression and the need to have something removed in order to progress forward in a life?
Well, the first thing is we don't, require it of anybody who's a trainee in our 18-month program. It's there, it's packed, there's a waiting list. So they're telling us, this is a thing I want to remove. So part of it is alarming tattoos, facial tattoos. In the early days, it was neck and face, elbow down. So because that was what was visible and was clearly an obstacle to employment. So, and then, later on, homies would lift their shirt up and they'd have the name of their gang. And I would go, gosh, it's so painful. It's so time consuming. It'll take forever. Keep your shirt on. No one will see it. And then they would say to me, my son will see it. And I go, all right. So we did that. So it's a way of sending a signal to friend and foe alike. I have chosen to redirect my life, and I've imagined my future in a different way, and that includes removing the stuff that's alarming gang-related is mainly it. Occasionally you'll have an ex-girlfriend's name that they'll
well, that might be a mistake, and no matter what walk of life you're in.
And I have to explain to the doctors that this is the big bad Lisa gang, because they only remove gang-related stuff. So I have to my nose grows as I tell them. So it works.
Well,
they must know I'm full of it.
And I'm sure that they would never turn you down. So, all right, and then something else you said, the shift of where the problems lie. So how are we in regards to the issue of gangs and gang violence? As you mentioned, the 80s and the 90s were where a lot of our attention was focused because it was so volatile. Has that abated somewhat and then sadly replaced by these other social issues such as homelessness?
Yeah, well, I would say it certainly has abated. So in 1992, we had 1,000 gang-related homicides. Since then, that number's been cut in half and then cut in half even again. So most chiefs of police in the last 25 years would certainly tip their hat to Homeboy and their beneficial role in that reduction of gang violence. It's still out there, for sure. And, we work with not just previously gang involved, but previously incarcerated folks. So people are being released, and now even more in large numbers of 5,000 from the county jail and 8,000 from the California state prisons. So, but our model now is more about healing. In the old days, it was jobs. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. But now we know that unless somebody surrenders to just this brief period of essential healing, they're probably going to go back to prison. This really breaks that cycle and really addresses the recidivism rate, which has always been vexing in the state of California.
So how would you balance the basic human needs of shelter and food and that kind of thing, to the need of one-on-one relationships and compassion and knowing that you were cared for and loved? Where's that balance?
That's an excellent question. I mean, part of it is we pay them to do the work. We pay them to work on themselves. We don't want them to be strangers anymore. And again, this is the most traumatized population ever, you know. Hence, they went to prison, and so they need to heal from what was done to them, and also come to terms with what they've done. And then they're resilient, and the world will throw at them what it will, but this time they're not going to be toppled.
Are you watching it shift from men to men and women, or a certain age bracket to a different age bracket? Where is everybody falling on the scope and scale of what's needed?
Yeah, when we started, gang members, 120,000 gang members, 5% were women, and now it's probably 3% are women. So it's been mainly a guy thing, but that's why we expanded our mission statement to include previously incarcerated, so that we would at least have women, some women. So we have 32% are women. But if we insisted, as we do with the guys, you have to have been a gang member, we wouldn't have any women. So, but they all have to be felons in order to be in our training program.
Interesting. So, and with these social enterprises, they're income producing, but I'm sure that they don't necessarily cover the overhead of the organization at large. How is that doing? Enterprises make you money, or that why you're around still? But then the kindness of strangers. How is the funding part?
It's a combo burger of both those things. Part of the thing is we're a $22 million annual operation, so half of that comes from our social enterprises, which is pretty good. Mm-hmm. But the other half, whatever, 10 million plus, that's a heavy lift every year. And we only get, we've gotten as high as 25% government funding, and it's mainly been low, 2% to 5%. Mm-hmm. And then the rest is fundraising, development, and the generosity of foundations and people with means. So, and then, the Hilton Humanitarian Prize really was a great help.
Well, that and putting a spotlight on the organization so that it can be visible outside of the enclave of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Along those lines, as I mentioned, you have a global component to Homeboy Industries. What's the feedback you're getting from different parts of the country and different parts of the world? What are you hearing, and what are people hoping to learn from you guys?
We don't recruit in the same way we don't recruit gang members to join our program. We are there, we await them. So that's what sort of happened since 2008. We'd have delegations from cities from all over the world in the U.S., and they wanted us to airlift into their city, Homeboy mm-hmm. Industries. So we didn't want to do that, and so we gave technical assistance. And now we've grown to 300 programs that are modeled on Homeboy in the United States and outside. So we gather every August. We did virtually this year, all our partners, and it's quite remarkable. And they're different, the gang thing is not a thing that's all over the place, but we have Rise Up Industries in San Diego, which is mainly returning citizens and gang members, and Braveheart Industries in Glasgow and Scotland.
Really?
And that's mainly returning citizens. But it's also in Sydney. Street Kids and other cities are using our methodology of a community culture of nurturing and cherishing to address mental health, to address homelessness. We never would have envisioned that, but people see it and they come to our place, hang out for a week, and then come to our network gathering every August, and we share best practices and our methodology that we believe in.
Obviously, you're a Catholic priest, you're a Jesuit priest, which gives an explanation to why you were here. But Homeboy Industries is not in any way overseen by any religion.
No, it doesn't proselytize in that sense. It's a social ministry of the Jesuits in the western half of our country, and proudly so. And I'm happy that they are connected to us. But we do our own fundraising and all our own support, and of course we have Muslims and non-Catholics and a wide variety beliefs and Buddhists, and so.
Are you aware of how you have impacted, not just through Homeboy Industries, but one-on-one people's lives, and do you feel that?
Yeah, you go to the margins not to make a difference. You go to the margins so that the folks at the margins make you different. And so, and that's the only way you can stay alive and delighting in the present moment and not burn out. So, otherwise, if it's about success, then you're going to start only working with the most likely to succeed, and that would be an abandonment of our mission, and I don't want to do that. So I have a light grasp on all that stuff. I'm appreciative to hear that. I'm wondering who that was. And but the thing that's most important is my life has been changed and altered, and I see things differently, and I've been able, because of gang members, I've been able to stand in awe at what they have to carry rather than in judgment at how they carry it. So I wouldn't trade my life for anybody's.
Do you understand why people join a gang?
Yeah. It's about a lethal absence of hope. It's about kids who can't imagine a future. It's about the most traumatized in our community. And it's about mental illness sometimes. But it's never about the things that people think, like wine, women, and song, join the gang and see the world, excitement. It's none of that.
Is it about loneliness?
No kid is seeking anything when he joins a gang. He's always fleeing something. So we would do well as a society if we address the things kids flee. We wouldn't have gangs.
How do you interpret success? What is success for you? Somebody who just gets a job, somebody who has a smile on their face that didn't have a smile the day before? I mean, when do you know something has clicked and turned?
It's kind of not part of our language at Homeboy, because it's an 18-month program, for example, and then someone will leave after 1 month. In the old days, we used to say, maybe they'll be back. Now we say, everyone says, they'll be back. Because once you have a dose of being cherished and nurtured, so it's not about surviving as the fittest, it's about thriving as the nurtured. And that will happen. Once you have a dose, people will come back. And so we're confident in what we dole out. And so it's never it's not about measuring ever. In fact, we're allergic to measuring because it's a process. It's like a drug rehab. You ask anybody in recovery, they'll all tell you they've been to 20 rehabs. Did anybody fail? No. It's just, we're here. We love you. We hope you'll find the joy there is in cherishing other people and yourself. And we hope that you find the truth of who you are, your true self in loving.
And education, where does education fall in regards to the necessary parts of life in your eyes?
Well, I think we're always insisting that anyone in our 18-month training program is doing something. So some of it's quite remedial. We're going to teach you to read, or take the written driver's test or exam, or get your GED, or so we've had any number go on and get MAs in counseling or whatever, social work, but that's because we insisted that nobody stops. As long as they're with us, they don't stop. They have to do something.
So what do you need? What does Homeboy Industries need? Obviously, money is, we'll just go ahead and assume that, financial support is imperative in all organizations. But what does Homeboy need? Does it need awareness from the community? Does it need volunteers? Does it need donations? Does it need just be kind to your fellow man? What does Homeboy need?
Well, all of the above, obviously. But, you also want employers willing to hire them after they've finished there's a kind of good housekeeping seal of approval at our place, They've done 18 months. They know who they are. They're going to be good employees. So look beyond their records or their tattoos and welcome them. I mean, we always need employers willing to give them a chance. You know, they always talk about second chance, but the truth is, whoever gave them their first one, you know. And so, you know, we always hope that people will fund us, support us, buy our products, talk about us, but also change how they see the world, you know, because the ultimate goal is Homeboy wants to be the front porch of the house that we all long to live in, a place of kinship and connection where there is no us and them. And I think that's a timely message in our country at the moment.
Do you rest? Do you do things for fun? This is a lot. This is growing. This is taking a lot of time, just even the time you're spending with me. What do you do for fun, Father Boyle?
I don't do a damn thing for fun. You know, that's probably a thing I should probably do every once in a while. It's odd, you know, COVID has sort of grounded me, you know, in both senses of that word. So my identity before was pulling a suitcase through an airport, and with two homies with me, we're flying to give a talk at some university, or saying mass in detention facilities here in LA County. I'm in all of them. Now I'm in none of them. You know, they're not allowing people in. Although tomorrow, for the first time, I'm going back to one camp that they're allowing. But so, you know, your identity gets fixed in these things, and then you grieve, you know, how your identity has been completely bombarded, and so you lean into it, you savor it, you relish it, you find your way to joy, even though, you know, your whole life has been upended. So that's kind of, so I don't know what I do for fun. I'm reading more than I've ever had a chance to. And then I'm on 1,000 Zooms, you know. I'm on a Tuesday night Zoom with homies. That has just been sort of, it began as Bible study. Now it's just kind of...
Social hour.
Well, now we share our stories. You know, it's been kind of extraordinary. But that's been 6 months now, every Tuesday night. So I have a bunch of those, you know, and that's a brand new thing.
Has COVID messed with the program? Has it kind of made you have to readjust what you're able to do?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, but we pivoted early on with the bakery and the cafe, and so
you're delivering meals out there, aren't you?
Yeah, we do have a thing called Feed Hope, so 10,000 meals a week that we deliver. So we've taken homies from other social enterprises that aren't operative right now, like our diner at City Hall is closed. And so we take them, and they're delivering meals to homeless and seniors and shut-ins as part of our way of addressing food insecurity in the county.
I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but when I learned about, you know, the Homeboys delivering to, you know, to seniors and everything, of course, the immediate thing that, you know, was like homies and grannies. I just thought that was such a great pairing.
You know, it's taken some people to kind of they have to grow comfortable with our delivery folks, you know, who arrive with masks but still visible tattoos and who are you and why have you come to my home? So
bringing gifts.
There you go.
Bringing gifts. All right. So my last, and this is just because you are a man of faith. If all your prayers were answered, what would Homeboy Industries look like?
Well, I you know, you'd always hope to be endowed, you know, because then you wouldn't have to worry. It's the thing that keeps me awake at night. How are we going to keep everybody employed, and so I'd be able to sleep better if that ever happened. Yeah.
We can do that.
Oh, good.
We will all.
You personally can do this
for
me.
I'm
glad I came.
I don't want to let you down. But who knows?
This was worth the trip.
There you go. Maybe there is someone that is listening that would make me not be ashamed in front of you, Father. Well, it's been wonderful chatting with you, and I wish you a world of good, because you are, in fact, the epitome of good. You are the definition of a homeboy.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap on this LA Current.